Hello and welcome to Soul Rain Art. It's me, Rachel, and today we are going to do a little project with Robyn's June printables. And let me just say this is the printable of all printables. I loved every page, and it was so hard to it was so lovely because every piece I wanted to work with, but it was so hard to select. Anyway, so we're going to make a book project, and what I wanted to do was take these envelopes, and you saw as I was talking that I have already gessoed them, and now I am just adhering. I am literally just adhering her printable pages as is directly to the envelope. So I needed a project that was easy because I've been working on a lot of other projects, but I wanted to pause and do a project, a meaningful project, just to kind of process some of my emotions and where I'm at. And so I go through and I decorate each of these 6x9 manila envelopes, and I'm just using double-sided tape. And now I probably could have skipped the whole gesso the envelope, but in my mind I was going to actually paint the envelopes and make collages out of the pieces, collage direct to the envelope. But I went with a low or an easy and fast project, even though it did take 2 days, but relative, because some of my projects can take like weeks at a time. So nevertheless, I set out to make this project. I think I have a total of 4 envelopes. I think I was supposed to use 6, but I ended up using 4. And so what you see me do is I cover both sides just right from the package. I printed them off on resume paper and onion skin, but I'm using the resume paper here to adhere. Okay, so while I was making my envelopes, I had a brilliant idea. And right here, what you're going to see me do is I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to assemble this book now that I've made these beautiful. Aren't they just beautiful? I mean, just by themselves, like, wow, that's gorgeous, right? So Robyn, you outdid yourself with this deck of set of printables, because they are just works of art in themselves. And you're going to see how I'm going to make them my own, because that's always my goal. So right here, I'm just showing you how I think I'm going to assemble this book. And there probably are 10 ways to assemble this book with envelopes. Now, I will admit, I'll be the first to admit that I am new to book arts, but not really, right? Like my mom, I was showing her my project. She goes, "You've been making books for a long time." You know how we forget things, right? And then she showed this book that I had made when I was like in the 2nd grade. And it's the cutest thing. And it's funny because it looks, in terms of how I glued, how I assembled the book. I didn't use manila envelopes. I used card envelopes. Anyway, make a long story short, I am trying to figure out how I'm going to adhere this. And I noticed that was me pointing out I didn't like that you can still see the manila part in the middle, but I will fix that later. And I'm going to keep playing and trying to figure out, well, do I want it to open on the inside? Do I want it to open on the outside? Do I want a pocket here? Do I want a pocket there? So many options. But what I end up going with is I decide that I'm going to make the two inside envelopes. I'm going to make them pockets or put an insert in it. So I pulled out my watercolor paper and I cut it down to size. Look how exacto I am, right? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of measuring, which is probably why I'm not a card maker, right? Because they're very precise and exact. I'm just like, I wing it, total wing it. Give me a ballpark, and that's what I go with. And so I am doing a little testing, and I realized, you know what, that thing is going to eventually break, because if I left the insert in the inside, I figured it would not be as stable. The book structure itself would not be as stable as if I made the insert come from the outside. So that was me marking on which two I wanted to keep on the inside and how I wanted them to look. So I take them out, and I'm just going to use my handy dandy trimmer. And yeah, my blade wasn't really made for that, so hey head. And so then I just kind of cut it down a size a little bit. And your girl's impatient, so she just kind of says, whatever, I'm just going to cut it. And it really, look at that. I have a little pocket now. Wow, awesome. So that's what I did. I made 2 little pockets in the center of the book, and I'm trying to make them kind of the same size here. Yeah. I watch some other paper crafters and book junk journal and bookmakers, and I'm just in awe at their precision. You know, they'll tell you it's got to be 6 by 3/4 inch and a half, and I'm like, that's too much work. I bet if I had to, I could be precise like that, but I like to just kind of go with what feels good while I'm creating. And so I made these little inserts, and then I said, you know what, I need to decorate the inserts. And so I start pulling out more of the papers, and I realized that in the deck, she also had some very colorful collage papers that are not just the rusty backgrounds. And so I'm going to decide to use those as my, yep, there we go. So I thought she only had 3. I come to find out there are 4 or 5. And so I end up covering one in one of the rusty backgrounds, but then when I realized that there were more, I end up you'll see in a minute that I'm just going to cover it up. So no mistakes, you just keep going. And as I mentioned, I'm using that two-sided double-sided sticky tape that you get from like Amazon. And I probably have way too much tape on it, but what you gonna do? All right, so I hope everyone is doing well. If you are new to my channel, I would be honored if you would join me on this art journey. I publish, I'm becoming a little more deliberate and consistent. So now I am trying to publish one every week, and I will continue to, as my systems are set up and my studio is becoming more ready, to publish once a week on a regular day. Saturday is my goal, every Saturday, but right now it's kind of like every Thursday. Anyway, I end up recording on Saturdays and publishing on Thursdays. Is kind of how it has been working. Okay, so you just see me doing this taping and gluing, and there's really nothing novel about this other than the fact that, you know, I tend to like to tear up paper and then, you know, redo a collage. But, you know, these, I needed an easy project. And so I guess the lesson in learning from that is, you know, you can make an easy project. Sometimes just the act of, you know, gluing and spending some time of being creative is all the therapy you need, right? And you don't have to necessarily always you know, try to be so unique. Alrighty, so we are just going to continue on here and starting to wrap up this phase of the project. Now, I think you could probably do this with more than 6 envelopes, but if you add more envelopes, you're going to have a different way of combining them. I am literally just going to rely on the glue that's a part of the envelope to adhere it. A couple times I add additional tape just to make it more secure. But in general, I just used the inside that already came with. Okay, so here you see I used that pinkish rusty background before realizing that Robyn had another one of these multi-colorful, beautiful ensemble collage pieces. Anyway, so you're gonna see me test them out to make sure they work. So, excuse me. It was funny when I was editing this video. For the life of me, I could not find where I adhere this envelope album. Like I just somehow I don't see it. But anyway, I know I did because you'll see at the end that it sticks together good. So here I'm just covering up. I decided to go ahead and use this beautiful piece that she has in this packet. And I'm just going to literally cover it up. I'm going to cover up that pink sheet. And I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about digital printables, right? Like if I were to go to the store right now, Michael's, and buy some scrapbook paper, I have to buy enough to complete a project. But, oops, look at that, a haul break. Okay, so we're about to start back up on our project. I wanted to pause for the cause and show you some a recent haul. Tuesday morning in Virginia finally opened up, and I was able to get in. Bonnie, who is mono printed on IG, she had shared that she had found these Heidi Swap paints, and they were glorious. and when I found out, when she told me they were $1.99, I was like, oh my gosh, I need those in my life. And so this is what the package looks like. This is what the package looks like. Right? It's very odd. One day I'm going to have it all figured out. I promise. One day. Okay, that's the packaging. And it has 4 different sets, 4 different color sets. And I already took the box off of this. So there's a faux gold kit. There's a faux whitewash kit, a faux zinc kit, and a faux rust kit. Bad lighting right there. All right, let's just move that out the light. There we go. So those are the 4 kits, and each kit comes with 2 little 2-ounce jars of paint. So that's from the faux gold. So you have a like a light gold, and the colors are not marked on the kit. So you have like a deep gold and a light gold. And then each kit comes with a little brush, one of those little brushes that Seth likes, the little cheap brushes, and then a little paint, a little stamp thingy. Okay, so let's just see what else we got here. That was the gold kit. And some instructions on how to paint the marquee letters. So what they were intentionally designed for was to paint these metal marquee letters to give them kind of a custom look, right? We're not using them that way. We'll be using them to jelly print, of course. Okay, hold on. Sorry. All right, so okay, the whitewash kit has a white and then this like very pale gray, if you will, and it has a silver, little silverishy paint. The rust kit, which is why I was really wanting to get the set in the first place, has like a brown and a yellow, or a brown and a sienna. These little brushes are adorable. It has another metallic. So we'll put all those together. I'm going to keep these containers because they make good bases. They make good bases for stamps. Okay. Homemade stamps. And the last set, and then we're going to get started with our project. It is dried. The last set is the zinc set, and it has like a black and a gray. So none of the colors are the same. And right now at Tuesday morning, they're $1.99. I tried to order it online, and it was like $9. So pretty good deal, I guess. All right, and then they also had these little smooch spritz, and I got the silver foil, and it was $3.99. And I got this brown one, which is called Log Cabin, and it was $3.99. So I got them, and I liked them. Let me just show you. I just like the color. I like right. Okay, and then I'll just show you this one real quick. I think that one has a whole lot of micas in it. It kind of just beat it up, didn't it? Nice. So all I did was just add some more like rust stain look to it just by the spritz on the jelly plate. It's a little wet still, so let me fill up here. That's nice. Okay, that's very nice. Very nice. Great. I'm excited about these two. I think I look like I'm gonna put them over here because I already tell them I'm gonna reach for those a lot. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let's go. So we are about to add our collage elements, and so here's our project so far. We have our two inserts, and we have our envelope book. Now, at some point, I'm going to cover that up with something, but for now, it is adhered. It is a solid structure, and we are about to utilize our collage elements. So, I have been dying to do a heritage book, but I have oftentimes not felt, I don't know, how do I say this, right? So we all know that Black artists are underrepresented in the art industry, and it's hard to find pieces that reflect Black faces, right? And so oftentimes we have to resort to just making our own. And so one of the things that has always stopped me from doing a heritage album is the lack of diversity in the heritage images. So I found a lady online, and I want to give a shout out to someone you should follow, and I will put her link in the description box. Her name is Tonya Samuels, and I reached out to her because she had used a Black woman, a heritage picture in one of her recent projects, and I was like, I have been collecting these on Pinterest, but just hadn't gotten around to it, and so she reminded me that I did have a folder of said pictures, and I should use one. So anyway, I found this gorgeous lady, and I always say that I think I must have lived in the 1920s because that's like my favorite era. I love everything about the 20s and the 40s. I love the Harlem Renaissance and the ladies and how they dressed. Anyway, so this lady, I'm drawn to her. And sometimes, when you make these stories and you play with ancestors that are not technically related to you, you kind of just wonder about their story, right? And so as I was making this album, I also wanted to reflect on I'm at a transition phase. My oldest son, just graduated from high school last week, and he is preparing to go off to West Point Military Academy, my alumni, yay, in about a month. And so as I reflect, I'm thinking about all the things that I would like to say to him or need to say to him, and have I prepared him, right? And so as I've been in this transition space and thinking about all the lessons that I wanted to learn to teach him, I was reminded of one of my favorite poems from when I was a kid, and it's called Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. And so I printed off the poem, and I'm going to use it to create this book art, as the poem kind of as my guiding collage element. And this lady, she is going to be the mother in the story. And I need to find a son that I want to represent this conversation that the two of them have. Now, what I love about this poem is what it depicts, right? It is a poem about resiliency and grit and never giving up and pushing through despite the circumstances that you face or the obstacles, right? So the lady basically is saying, my life has never been a crystal stair. I haven't been given all of the opportunities and the grace that many have been. But my life is still beautiful and I'm still pushing through and I'm still smiling and you can never give up even when you're tired, right? And that's the gist of her that poem. And it is a powerful poem. One of my favorite all time. So what you see me doing here is playing with paint. I like to try to make it my own somehow so that it doesn't look like all I did was print the the paper and glued it on, which is actually what I did, right? But I put some color on there. I'm going to keep trying to give it some kind of like a feel, kind of like a vintagey feel. Like if you found this book in a trunk in your great grandmother's house and she had made this scrapbook or made this book for somebody, that this is what it would look like, right? So I'm going to just kind of grunge it up a little bit and make it look older than it is and give it some character. So I'm using my all-time favorite supply these days. I love Seth Apter's dye ink sprays in honey and in tea, and I use them like all the time. And so I have put them, if you haven't seen in my other videos, I've put them in a watercolor brush. That's what's inside that blue, that brush that has the blue lid. Okay, so I put that aside and now I'm going to keep making pages. And so what I have, as I mentioned, I have printed off the poem and I'm going to try to get a part of the poem on every page. And so what I have to do is kind of gauge how I'm going to break the poem up, right? Like poems have kind of defined breaks as they are. And so I'm going to try to keep the breaks as they are so that they make sense as you're reading it. But in some cases I have to take some liberties just to make it fit the amount of pages that I have. Alrighty. As I mentioned, the poem is called Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. If you have never read anything by the poet Langston Hughes, I would advise you to read this poem, although he has so many amazing poems. This is probably one of his most popular poems. And the poem, the part I remember, I don't remember the title of it, but the part I remember about the poem is What Happens to a Dream Deferred. Oh, that's a powerful poem too. And I will list the name of that poem, if you're curious, in the description box as well. And if I forget, which I'm known to forget, just let me know. Hey, say, Rachel, you said you're going to list a poem in there and you didn't, and I'll look it up for you. And I appreciate you tagging me, helping me, keeping me honest. Okay, so you see, I'm a big, what I always say, waste not, want not. And so I have poured out some mixing like two colors, making my own color palette. Here is a beautiful rust color. I probably should rewatch this so I can figure out what exactly I mixed to get that color. And of course I used our quinacridone nickel azo gold, but I think I used something else in there to give it that extraness. Anyway, I'm going to use that stamp. I'm going to clean that stamp. I'm going to get all that yummy goodness. Oh, ooh, look at that. What did I use there? Oh, that's that antiquing gel. Oh, okay. Go, Rachel. Get creative. All right, anyway, so I'm just making some marks and dabbing the paint. And I literally at this point I'm going for it now, right? You always can see the shift in my videos, right? Like there's a part where I'm all in my head and I'm trying to plan it all out. And then there's another part where I just kind of go. Like the Chris Brown song. Yeah, you can tell I have teenagers, right? Like the Chris Brown song, Go Crazy. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm going crazy right here. I'm using my stencils. I'm using my stamp. Now, what you see me do here with my jelly plate is I use my jelly plate like a stamp pad all the time, right? I use it like a jelly plate, but I also use it like a stamp pad. So, use your tools. And I am, again, using the pieces that are around me, I had a challenge one of my things that I challenged myself was only to use this one kit in this project. Do you know how hard that was? It was so hard because I had all of these pieces around me. I had a lot of pieces, but I tried really hard. I tried really hard just to use the pieces that were on the table and then to make new pieces out of like the scraps from the onion skin or the scraps from the resume paper that were around me. But I did use a couple straggler pieces. Like the blue element is from a project I was working on last week. So it was close by, but I think it falls within the realm of I only used this digital pack, meaning I didn't use my own digital pack or anybody else's paper. I just used Robyn's June pack in this project. All right, here we go. So I'm a gluing. Transitions are tough. So my son, when he had his graduation, right, I think I lost it when he sent me a picture of himself in his cap and gown, right? Pre-actual the event, he sends me a picture of himself in the cap and gown, and I'm in the middle of a business meeting, and I literally lost it. Like, I'm trying to act like I'm laughing, but I was really crying. I really was. I was like, oh, my baby boy is a man. Oh, God bless him. All right, he is a man. He's such a sweetheart, too. And I'm so very proud of him. He is... the graduation, they end up having a parade. I'm so thankful they did something, because at first they weren't going to do anything, and which isn't fair to these young people. They've worked 12 years for this moment, and they don't get to have the closure they needed. And he and I had talked about that, that he was probably going to experience some grief because of the loss, the perceived loss. The loss is that he won't get to experience graduation, right? So we had that. I'd given him a warning that if he found himself in an emotional state, that's what he was experiencing. And one day he did. He broke down, and I just sat there with him, as that is normally the best advice when someone is grieving. You just sit there with them. You don't have to offer a lot of insight or wisdom or anything. Just sit there with them. Anyway, so I sat there with him, and we processed, and I let him hear him tell me what he was missing or was going to miss. So I'm using some cheddar, if you're still watching and not just listening to me ramble roast. I use some Dina Wakley cheddar. It's one of my favorite colors as well here on the back. I also, if you noticed, I would use one of my tea bags as a cover for the envelope, the envelope part that goes over that we hadn't covered up yet. I used that, and so now that I've introduced the tea bags into this, I started using some more in other places. I really like using those tea bags just because they don't become translucent, but they do well with glue, and they give it a different texture to the page. So let's go back to my conversation about my son and his transition, and then we talked about grief, right? And so he had one of his things that he was really trying to process was he was never going to see his teachers, his favorite teachers, and he wouldn't be able to say thank you. And so I said, well, you can say thank you. You can write them letters. But it wasn't the same. He wanted to have a physical touch thank you, right? And so I was grateful when they said they were going to do a parade. And, he was so nonchalant about the whole thing. Like, it was no big deal. Let's just go do this. Let's get this over with, right? Well, I'm extra, right? I wanted to do the most. I wanted to take all the pictures, and I wanted to, do the balloons. He was not having balloons. But anyway, so we go into the parade, and he's fine until he sees his favorite teacher. And his favorite teacher's name was Miss Haddad, and she was a saint. She believed in Elijah, and she pushed Elijah, and she was a godsend, right? Like you have that one teacher that was sent for your student, your child, and she was that one for him. And so she was the first person he saw. Now, he broke all protocol. He jumps out the car. He's boohoo sobbing. She's boohoo sobbing. Then, of course, I'm boohoo sobbing. So it was a good event. But, as I'm still processing, even now as I'm watching me put together this book, I remember sitting there thinking about the lessons and that, you just reflect, right? The things that I've tried to teach him about doing things in excellence, and that you know, right now we're in a very racially tense time, and I'm trying to strengthen him, especially as he prepares to go to West Point, just because I haven't gone there myself. I know he will be up against a lot of prejudice and bias, and he's got to fortify himself to know how to navigate the bias and the prejudice and the racism that he is unfortunately going to experience. And so as I'm working here, so I'm using this blue, right? Remember I had told you earlier that I didn't like the way the seams were still showing. So this my favorite indigo color is becoming my unifier. I'm going to put that on all the seams to cover up the seams, but it's a good element because it grounds the page. It's going to ground all the pages to give you something to draw your eye around. It wasn't intentional, but again, oftentimes when I'm making these projects, it what is around is what gets used, right? And so I'm working on my course, Faux Indigo course. If you want to take one of the modules, I have a free module that you can take now as I continue to develop the entire course. I'm up to 5 modules right now on African indigo textiles, and so that's why I have the indigo around me, because I'm working on that course. So, and as you see, I'm kind of wrapping it up, and I want to put some words on the insert. I also am going to save a space to put a sun picture that I hadn't picked out yet, and so I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to get all these words on the backs of these inserts. That's a good one, because you find it's kind of hard, right? Like, don't you dare fall because you find it kind of hard. I mean, there's so much spunk and sass in this. It sounds like an old mom talking to her son, like, oh, yo, my life ain't been easy, but you don't see me giving up, right? It's just a great poem anyway. So I'd hear this piece. I'm trying to make sure I leave enough room that I can create like a little tab to pull it out. And here I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get all these words on here. Because it's not really going to fit very well. So I get a little creative, a little brave. But let me tell you, I was really scared that I was like, you know what? I only printed this poem off one time. And so I'm going to need to make sure I tear this correctly. So it looks like I'm tearing really fast, but I have it sped up to like 5 times that I actually was working. So anyway, I'm going to use my blue, and if you're curious about that blue, it is a blue by Atelier. It's a paint out of Australia, and the color is called Blue Black, and it's a heavy body paint. It is becoming one of my favorites because it's very heavy and thick, and the it's just enough blue and just enough black, right? Like, it's a perfect color. Anyway, so I do this little thing here, and then I have blue all over my hand. And so since I already started that, then I I must continue. And so I am putting this blue around to kind of unify the picture, unify the pages. And I grab my favorite color. I grab the honey, and it turned green. Like, duh. Duh. But anyway, blue and orange are going to give you that color. But anyway, so here we go. The best part, my favorite part, where things start to slow down. So it's in here. Right when I'm beginning, I always work really intent. Like, my mind is trying to calculate how this is going to work. Then there's a point where I shift and I just go crazy, and I'm going real fast. And then there comes to the end where I get to slow down, take it all in, and kind of bring the piece together. And so I'm using honey in my little water brush pen to unify my quotes, kind of kick back some of the stark whiteness of my pages, and then I'm gonna come in here and I'm gluing down some pieces and just, in places with no carpet on the floor bare. It's such a good poem, and struggle, right? And overcoming the struggle, not letting the struggle define you. A lot of good lessons in this poem, right? Where there ain't been no light. What? And turning corners and sometimes going in the dark, right? Sometimes pushing through where there ain't been no light. No opportunity, but I do it anyway, right? You make your own opportunities. You push through and you don't get tired. You just keep climbing. You just keep climbing. What a beautiful poem. So anyway, I used to have this poem on my wall, and when I was in high school, I was a big poetry history person. So my room was my sanctuary, and I had posters of African queens and kings because I knew my history did not begin in 1619, right? And so I had all these African queens and kings and Egyptian and just all kinds of beautiful history images on my wall. And then I had another wall that just had all these great poems. I had Phenomenal Woman on the wall. I had Still I Rise on the wall. I had lots of Langston Hughes poems on the wall. And I'm so grateful my mom let me decorate my room so that it could speak to me, right? Like, so when I woke up in the morning, that's what I saw. And when I went down to sleep, that's what I saw. And so my sense of self was girded up as a child because of what I was exposed to and had around me. So I am grateful for that, and a mom who allowed me to express myself on all occasions and just to be me. And so thank you, Mom. All right, so I don't know where I have disappeared to in this video right now, but I am off the screen and I see nothing. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to find some thread or something to make a structure, and I'm looking for my tools because I need to poke a hole so that I can put some thread or yarn or something in there so we can have a little tabby to pull out the inserts, right? So I turned around and got my little toolbox that has all my good stuff in it. And I could not find I don't know what that thing is, like the crocodile, the one that you just you lay down. I couldn't find that. So I use a old faithful, one of those old school hole punches. And I thought it was way bigger than it was. And so I ended up making two for some reason in that one. I think it's because the first one was kind of lopsided. Anywho, so I make the second one more precise, and I really like that combo, the rust and the indigo. That's like my new favorite combo. Just love it. Don't worry, I'm going to get back to my reds and turquoise soon. But while I'm doing this course, I am engrossed. I am knee deep in these two colors, learning all I can about how they work together. But I like them, so I don't mind it too bad. But every now and then I do go, I wish I could play in some red right now. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll play in some red just to get it out of my system. Alrighty, so what I did was I grabbed some gold thread. I didn't really like that. And then I grabbed this fancy yarn. I wasn't feeling that either. And in the end, I go with this like gold sari string that I found, and I force it through and make a little knot. Nothing fancy. And I remember while I was tying this, I was like, I should put on some beads on there. And I was like, Rachel, the objective is to complete this project. It is not. And if I give it to my son or somebody, they may not want all those beads and dangles. So nevertheless, I do it again. I cut the piece. I poke it through the hole. Well, I hope that everyone here is having a blessed afternoon, morning, day. I would love to hear your comments and thoughts, and just check in with me. It really blesses me to know that people are watching, and maybe something I said or showed inspired you, or at least made you laugh a little bit. And sometimes my conversations can be a little hard too, and so maybe it just made you think, right? But in the end, as I have said multiple times, I'm committed to creating experiences in a safe place for people to heal emotionally, spiritually, and culturally. And I use art as my my modality for that transformation. And so you see me here realizing that not all my pages are glued tight, or that maybe the weight of the book is now unbinding them. So my true confession comes out that I am a novice bookbinder, and at some point I probably should sew this book, but I did. Now I'm just going to flip through and show you. Oh, it's a nice book, right? It's got the little tab. Oh, it's got the quotes. It's got the nice poem. I'll know that when I look at this, what I was thinking about. Maybe I should put Elijah's picture on here somewhere or something. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this project. I would love to see what you make. If you make an envelope album or book, or if you download or purchase Robyn McClendon's papers, and I would love to see them. Please like and subscribe, leave comments. It helps with the old algorithm, which we know needs help. The algorithm needs our help. So like, subscribe, and share with anyone you know who might actually like this poem or like to make grungy stuff. I will appreciate them joining my community. And I wish you well, many blessings and love. Apparently, I'm not done. I think I'm done, but I'm looking at how much tape is left. So what has happened is I realized I need to do some more decorating, right? Like I need to do the marks that make it mine. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So let's go back, a little more commentary so you can see what I'm doing, because apparently I'm still working. And so I grab a stamp that's nearby. I think this is a Seth Apter stamp, one of his minis, and I never use them in totality. I use like a corner. So I'm literally using a corner of it, but I am going to put it on every page, just kind of try to bring the piece together, make it look like it is a cohesive project and not just a collection of pages. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, and why I repeat it on every page. And I used the Archival in Sepias was the ink that I used. And I'm using my Jane Davenport, what do you call that? Brush pen. I love this pen. It is so liquidy, but yet it doesn't like drip, if you know what I mean, right? Like sometimes you get a pen and it has too much liquid in it and it drips all over, and then you have all these like blob dots. Somehow it's controlled wetness and it's just perfect. It's just perfect. It's easy to use. And so I'm making my marks, my signature marks that are on all of my pieces in some form or fashion. And I'm making some big and I'm making some small, but I'm literally talking now and to the page and blessing it and praying over it, that whoever reads this or watches this video is blessed, and that their hearts are filled with some peace and some joy, because we need a lot of that these days to heal the land. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Those marks to me are kind of like a prayer, a connection back to the strength of my past and the hope of the future. So that's what I'm doing. And as I make these little marks, wasn't that fun? It's fun to rewatch it. Even though I know I'm the one who made it, it's still fun. Alrighty, so I am just about finished. At the very end, I am going to show you pictures so you can see pictures of the pieces up close. And I think this is a wrap. Take care until we can create again. May your soul reign. Bye-bye.